With the holidays coming up and the weather getting colder, I feel like there are so many seasonal drinks that our family starts to crave, like eggnog and hot cocoa. And then there are also the drinks that we like to make for holiday gatherings, such as slow cooker apple cider and punch. And while I wouldn't consider any of these to be health foods, I do still like to make them in my home from scratch because I feel like it gives me better control over the ingredients and it also saves a ton of money, especially with a family of 9. Those little packets of hot cocoa or the cartons of eggnog can really add up. So I thought it would be fun to take you along in the kitchen today as I make 5 of our family's favorite seasonal drinks, and I will share those recipes with you. Also, if you're here just looking for a particular recipe, I will have the timestamps in the description below. The first recipe I'm going to start with today is for eggnog, and I actually just started making eggnog a year ago. And the reason was I was scared of raw egg, and a lot of recipes included raw egg, and I thought that that's just how you had to make it. Now, I know I'm going to get called a hypocrite because I'm okay with raw milk and I'm scared of raw egg. I don't know why, it just is what it is. But whether or not you are someone who licks the cookie batter spoon or you're more like me, I think you're really gonna love this recipe because cooking the egg actually thickens it and makes it more rich and creamy. And then we have adjusted the spices to our family's preferences. But this recipe is also very versatile, so you can play with it to make it perfect for your family as well.
If you're new here, I'm Stacy, homeschooling and homesteading mama of 7 on a mission to ditch the grocery store and become more self-sufficient. Subscribe to our channel to learn more about our journey and how we were making that dream come true. So to make this eggnog, you're going to start by separating out 12 large egg yolks and then whisk them together in a bowl and set them aside. To a medium saucepan, add 4 cups of milk, 2.5 cups of cream, I've just mixed them all together here, 1 cup of sugar or maple syrup. I use sugar because I'm sensitive to syrup, but just use whatever your family prefers. 1 teaspoon cinnamon, 3/4 teaspoon ground nutmeg, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Whisk and heat the mixture over medium heat until the sugar is well dissolved and it starts to come to a simmer, then remove it from the heat. Next, you're going to scoop out 1/4 cup of the hot milk mixture and drizzle it slowly into the egg yolks while continuously whisking. Go slow so they don't cook. This is to temper the eggs. If you were to just toss the eggs into the hot milk, you'd end up with scrambled eggs in your eggnog. Repeat this 2 or 3 more times, stirring as you go. Then slowly add the egg mixture to the saucepan, whisking continuously. Turn the heat back on low and whisk until the eggnog is thick enough to coat a spoon. Be careful though, don't overcook it. In fact, err on the side of not long enough or else you will end up cooking the eggs. After it thickens, remove the pan from the heat and whisk in 2 teaspoons of vanilla. This next step is optional, but I always like to pour the mixture through a sieve at this point just to make sure there are no little bits of eggs. And then I pour it straight into a blender because after it's chilled, I like to blend it up and make sure it's very smooth. So you're going to refrigerate the eggnog for at least 6 hours before serving. If it isn't completely smooth after chilling, blend with an immersion blender or a regular blender for a few seconds and it will be good to go. If you're feeling fancy, you can garnish each cup with a little nutmeg or cinnamon. This eggnog is so good, so much healthier than store-bought, and is much cheaper. And the best part is that you can now have eggnog year-round if you so desire. Okay, next up is my from scratch hot cocoa mix. This hot cocoa mix recipe was one of my most popular reels on Instagram, and for good reason. It takes just a few minutes to whip up a large batch. It has 0 questionable ingredients like fake creamer powders or Nesquik, and it tastes amazing. Also, if you're dairy-free, there's an easy way to make this recipe completely dairy-free, and it's delicious as well. To make the mix, you will need a large mixing bowl. Now, I'm making a normal size batch here, but we actually usually double this because our family is very large and we go through a lot, so feel free to adjust the amounts to your family size. So to the mixing bowl, add 3 cups of whole milk powder. This is organic A2A2 milk powder, which I will link below, but if you want to make this recipe dairy-free, just replace the milk powder with coconut milk powder, and that is very good as well. Then 2 cups powdered sugar, 1.5 cups Dutch processed or alkalized cocoa powder, And the reason I say this kind specifically is because it is a little less bitter than regular cocoa powder. 3 teaspoons cornstarch. This is a non-GMO organic cornstarch, and 1 teaspoon salt. Then whisk to combine well. Next, you're going to take half of the mixture, or whatever will fit, and put it into your food processor. If you don't have one, you can use a blender as well. Then rough chop 4 ounces of white baking chocolate and add it in. If you're making this dairy-free, make sure your chocolate doesn't contain dairy. Pulse in your food processor until the mixture is smooth and you can no longer see chunks of white chocolate. If the remaining mixture left in the bowl is a bit chunky, go ahead and run this through the food processor as well. Mine was today, and I think it was just because my cocoa powder was older and had clumped a bit. Next, mix the white chocolate mixture back into the remaining mixture. Whisk well to combine, and your amazing hot cocoa mix is done. To serve it, just add 1/4 cup of the mixture to 8 ounces of hot milk. And yes, you can use hot water, but it definitely isn't as good. If you're making this dairy-free, we really like vanilla almond milk. Definitely store the mixture in an airtight jar. I always get asked how long this will last, and I would say to just look at the expiration dates on your ingredients and go by that. We personally have not had the mixture around long enough to have it go bad. All right, up next is my favorite chai tea concentrate. I used to buy a spendy brand of this, and so I was so excited when I found out I could make it myself, and it is very easy to make. To start, bring 4 cups of water to a boil. Add 6 inches of fresh ginger peeled and sliced into strips, 2 large or 4 small cinnamon sticks, 8 whole cloves, 2 teaspoons cardamom seeds, which I couldn't find at the store, so I'm using ground. Not ideal, but it works fine. 1 vanilla bean cut into 1-inch pieces, or you can add in 2 tablespoons of vanilla extract later, which is what I'm going to do because vanilla beans right now are ridiculous in price. 1/2 teaspoon nutmeg, 2 tablespoons sugar, 1/2 cup honey, and 6 black bags of black tea. I'm using decaffeinated black tea, but use whatever you prefer. After it comes back to a boil, reduce the heat to a simmer and let it simmer for about 20 minutes, stirring it occasionally. Next, add in 4 cups of milk and bring it back to a light boil. After it starts to boil again, remove it from the heat and whisk in the 2 tablespoons vanilla extract if you didn't use the vanilla bean. Finally, strain the mixture through some cheesecloth or a thin towel, and your concentrate is ready to use. You can use it right away or chill it for later. To use the concentrate, the amounts are really personal preference. You can do 2-to-1 concentrate to milk or 1-to-1. You'll just have to play with it to see what you like. The next recipe I'm going to show you is one that is great for a cozy night at home or for making for a holiday gathering. The amounts I'm going to give you serve 2 adults and 7 kids, but if I was making it for a crowd, I would triple these amounts. I'm also just using apple juice from the store to show you this recipe today, but we do have cider in the freezer that I will thaw out and use instead for Thanksgiving. So first, pour the apple juice or cider into a slow cooker and turn the heat to high. Mix in 1 tablespoon of frozen orange juice concentrate or fresh orange juice if you have it on hand, 1/4 cup brown or maple sugar, this is actually maple sugar that I'm using today, 3 tablespoons molasses, and 1/4 teaspoon salt. Whisk the mixture until it is well combined. Toss in the cinnamon stick, then to either a spice bag or a loose leaf tea ball or some cheesecloth, put 1 teaspoon whole cloves and 1 teaspoon whole allspice. Add the spice bag to the slow cooker and give it a little stir. Turn the slow cooker down to low and let it heat for 2 hours. At that point, you can remove the spice bag and the cinnamon stick, and it is ready to serve. Okay, I debated on showing you guys this last one because it isn't exactly healthy or completely from scratch, but it is so good and so nice for holiday get-togethers. This recipe was actually my mom's, and it's become a tradition. So for this, you will need some freezer-safe containers. I'm using an ice cream pail and a few ice cream containers. To a large bowl, add 3 cups of very hot water. I heated mine up in a tea kettle on the stove. Then add in 1 cup of sugar and whisk well until the sugar dissolves completely. Then add 3 cups of cold water and stir to combine. To this, you will add 46 ounces of pineapple juice, 12 ounces frozen orange juice concentrate, and 12 ounces frozen lemonade concentrate. Stir really well until everything is mixed together. I did thaw the frozen juices a bit before making this to help it go a little faster. Then you're going to divide the mixture into your freezer-safe containers, being careful to allow room for expansion when it freezes. I'm not ready to do this quite yet. I'm saving this for Thanksgiving next week, but to serve it, you just let the mixture thaw for about 45 minutes before you plan to serve it, and then add 2 liters of 7-Up to each half of the mixture. So total, the punch mixture you made will make 2 punch bowls worth. Chop up the frozen juice and stir. It should be drinkable, but almost like a slushy consistency. Well, thank you for hanging out in the kitchen with me today. I hope you found a recipe that you're excited to try, and I'll see you guys here next week.